Overseas, after much anticipation, Joe Biden is now the 46th president of the United States. At 78, he is the oldest U.S. leader to be inaugurated. Leslie Tang has more on this historic moment.
It's been a rocky 2 months since his election win, but Joe Biden finally took up the helm as the 46th president of the United States. The inauguration ceremony took place at the U.S. Capitol that was under siege by a chaotic mob just 2 weeks ago. Due to COVID-19 precautions, there was no massive cheering crowd on the National Mall. Instead, tens of thousands of National Guard troops beefed up security. Biden took his oath with his hand on a 5-inch thick Bible held by his wife Jill that has been in his family for 128 years.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
But Biden faces a daunting task, inheriting a fractured country that is grappling with a pandemic that has claimed more than 400,000 American lives, and economic fallout and deep racial tensions. He called for unity during these tense times.
We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, conservative versus liberal. In the work ahead of us, we're going to need each other. We need all our strength to persevere through this dark winter. We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. And I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. Together.
It was a historic moment for Kamala Harris as she was sworn in as the first female vice president, also of Black and Asian descent. 3 former presidents and former Vice President Mike Pence attended the ceremony. But it came as no surprise that outgoing President Donald Trump, licking his wounds, boycotted the event and flew back to Florida instead. He is the first president in modern history to skip the inauguration of his successor. Leslie Tang, TVB News.
Meanwhile, U.S. politicians as well as world leaders welcomed the inauguration.
President Biden made unity the major theme of his inaugural address. He pledged to be a president for all Americans, to work as hard for the many millions of Americans who did not support his candidacy as he will for the millions who did. So I congratulate my friend from Delaware, look forward to working with him as our new president wherever possible.
I particularly warmly congratulate Vice President Harris on her inauguration. That is a historic moment, and one that I think, as a father of daughters, you can only celebrate. And I wish her all the best in her very important duties as well.
So the messages we've conveyed since again have been our warmest congratulations. And of course our desire to cooperate. The world is facing huge challenges, not least obviously COVID-19, but also the challenge to our collective environment, all of which we're seeing early signs that are really encouraging from the United States around the role they wish to play.
U.S. President Joe Biden used his first day in office to sign a string of executive orders. Daniel Rao reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden's first day in the White House began with a flurry of activity. In total, he issued 15 executive actions and 2 directives. Biden prioritized the country's response to the pandemic. The president created a new federal office responsible for coordinating a national response to the virus. Mask wearing and social distancing mandates were issued to federal employees. Biden extended the federal eviction freeze. The freeze seeks to help alleviate pandemic-related economic pressure on the poor. Biden's moves come as COVID-19 cases in the U.S. continue to surge. The country tops global statistics for both virus cases and deaths. Prior to his inauguration, Biden had repeatedly accused Donald Trump of failing to take the pandemic seriously. On the immigration front, Biden called for an end to the construction of Trump's U.S.-Mexico border wall. The wall was one of the former president's most notorious policies. It delighted his fan base, but alienated many within the US's sizable Latin American community. Biden also halted the controversial travel ban imposed by Trump on various Muslim-majority countries. With regards to the environment, he called for a review of regulations and executive actions deemed potentially damaging to public health. The approval to complete the Keystone XL pipeline, which aimed to funnel oil between the US and Canada, was also revoked. Biden went on to extend an olive branch to the international community. He declared his intent to rejoin both the Paris Climate Accord and the World Health Organization. Both the Accord and the WHO had been frequently derided by Trump. That put him at odds with traditional allies such as the European Union. On race relations, an order was issued instructing federal agencies to assess the prevalence of systematic discrimination in American society. Dozens more executive orders are now reportedly set to be issued by Biden over the next 10 days. Still, the president's attempts at reform could face stiff opposition from Senate Republicans. Daniel Rell, TVB News.